Welcome back to Haven's Cafe. Today, over a little cup of espresso, we are going to discuss the Iran war, Trump, its consequences, global energy shocks, catastrophe, the whole nine yards. So, grab a coffee, grab a tea, grab a scotch if that's what you need, pull up a chair, and let's dig into it. So, here's the deal, guys. Things are pretty catastrophic out there. All right. And it boils down to this. Do you trust Trump or not? It always boils down to that, right? And for some reason, markets don't get this message. So, what's going on is that over the last couple of days, Trump has announced all kinds of things, right? We're winning this war. The war is suddenly going to end. His usual Trumpian, routine circus of lies and nonsense. And we'll come back to the reality on the ground. But first, we're going to talk about the markets a little bit. And in response, stock markets, especially in America, have rallied a little bit. Okay? They believe him. All right? What is the first rule of modern life? Never believe Donald Trump. Never believe anybody that comes from this kind of like coterie of lunatics and maniacs, all right? So there's Trump saying, "We're winning, everything's going to be over soon. Don't worry guys, back to business as usual." Meanwhile, here is what the oil producing nations are saying. Okay? Saudi Arabia, this is coming from an article in The Guardian today. But you can read it all over the place. Saudi Arabia's state oil company has warned of catastrophic consequences for the world's oil markets if the US-Israel war with Iran continues to block shipping in the Strait of Hormuz. Amin Nasser, the chief executive of Aramco, said, "While we have faced disruptions in the past, this one by far is the biggest crisis the oil and gas industry has faced." So he's saying this is a bigger oil and gas crisis maybe than the 1970s. Okay, he's far from alone. On the other side is Qatar's energy minister. Here's a quote from the FT. Qatar's energy minister has warned that war in the Middle East could bring down the economies of the world, predicting that all Gulf energy exporters would shut down production within days. All right, Saad Al-Kabi told the FT that even if the war ended immediately, it would take Qatar weeks to months to return to a normal cycle of deliveries following an Iranian drone strike at its largest liquefied natural gas plant. Okay? So, there's Trump saying everything is going to be fine. And there are the guys on the ground, the oil producing countries, saying, listen, we are facing the biggest oil shock maybe in history. Okay? And if you follow what's actually happened on the ground, one after another, they've declared what is known as force majeure. Okay, force majeure means that we cannot, there's an act of God, there's circumstances beyond our control, and we can't fulfill our contract. It's an emergency situation, and it's something you don't want to declare. So they're declaring force majeure because their plants have been hit, they've been taken offline one by one. Qatar declared force majeure, Bahrain declared force majeure, I think Saudi Arabia is declaring force majeure effectively, right, through this declaration. So one by one, they're declaring force majeure. Now, force majeure is not something that you want to declare. It's not something that you want to use lightly, okay? Because when you do it, your credibility, your trust, go down, your insurance rates go up. There are all kinds of negative consequences. It's a serious thing to declare force majeure, very serious, especially in the oil and gas industry, okay? So there are stock markets, especially in America, beginning to rally a little bit, okay? Because they believe Trump. When Trump says, hey, guys, the war is over, things are going to be back to normal soon. Meanwhile, the guys on the ground are telling you completely the opposite story. So the question boils down to, who do you want to believe? Okay? In a situation like this, I don't think you should ever believe Donald Trump, because Trump is, what is Trump's modus operandi? He tells a lie to get you on his side, and then he double crosses you. Bang, stabs you in the back, right? Don't forget, he started bombing Iran when they were in the middle of negotiations. Okay? Now let's talk about what's happening on the ground. Well, it seems like Iran has Trump over a barrel, right? Pun fully intended. If you will, hey, today's worst joke, right? So what's going on is if Trump walks away and declares a premature victory, and a super hardline regime is left, which is still intent on disrupting oil, the world's oil supply. Trump has created a mess and it's going to destabilize the world's economy. Okay? If Trump stays in, keeps bombing things, it continues to destabilize oil supplies. All right? And of course, the political costs at home go up because Americans don't want this war. So Trump doesn't have a good option here. He doesn't have. This is why the newspapers these days are full of, this very American way of putting it. Trump's advisors looking for off-ramps. Yeah, man, of course they're fucking looking for off-ramps. The dumbest fucking war in human history. They're looking for off-ramps, yes. Right? Have you ever studied history? Do you know what happens when people attack Iran? Have you ever met an Irani? Do you think these guys like to surrender? No, they don't, dude. Like, get a clue, right? So, I mean, of course they're looking for off-ramps. So, what's going on in the ground is there's no good way out of this situation. Now, the West foolishly has backed Trump's war. And they're floating proposals like escorting ships through the Straits of Hormuz. Maybe they'll do it. Maybe it'll happen by tonight. I don't know. Nobody can say. Even if they do, I don't know how much that lowers risk, because all it takes is one missile getting through and down in a tanker going through the Strait of Hormuz, which is 20 miles wide, and bang, right? Game over. You can understand the consequences, right? So I would never bet on Donald Trump, right? Part of the reason I created Havens, a hedge fund you guys can all subscribe to, is I wanted an alternative, right? So, and you guys all asked me for it. Now, what's going on out there is that the markets include many of your financial advisors, right? They include the orthodox financial industry. These guys are betting on Trump. They're betting that what Trump is saying is going to come true. I think it's a bad bet. I think the smartest thing you can do is stay out of this mess. Keep your money out of this mess. Cash out for the time being. Okay? I've said it in previous videos. I want to reinforce it in this video. Okay? It's totally cool to cash out for the next week, 2 weeks, however long this madness goes on. Whatever you're going to make on the upside as, right, a typical investor, 2%, right? If you really know what you're doing, 5%, 10% is not worth the risk, okay? Not worth the risk in any of these scenarios. Not worth the risk in a scenario where the Gulf countries are talking about the world's biggest oil shock, okay? Not worth the risk. That means, if they're right, that means stocks are going to crater big time, okay? Not worth the risk in terms of, even if these guys manage to open up the Strait of Hormuz and you have, God knows what, naval ships escorting tankers, but one missile gets through and the tanker goes down, bang, and it's game over. Again, markets crater. Not worth the risk, in my opinion. This is not financial advice. I'm just talking to you as a guy, right? So, who spent his lifetime studying this stuff. So, that is my kind of takeaway from all this for today. The situation is evolving very fast, but I think the general principles remain true. Right? It's been this way since the beginning of this era in history. The central question is, do you trust Trump, or are you going to be smarter than that? Okay? That's a lot for one video. I hope it helps. Questions, comments, leave them below, and I'll try and answer them. Okay? Thank you.